Hello again. Because I spent most of yesterday walking and climbing in the Brecon Beacons National Park, I was interested when somebody belonging to the Ramblers organisation sent me a couple of links which showed that there is a lot of concern about the supposed fact that people with brown skins have restricted access to green spaces and limited opportunities for walking because of systemic racism. Allow me to mention what I did yesterday. I walked from Brecon, that's the town, to the open country and then climbed to the top of Cribbin, one of the mountains at the Brecon Beacons. Then I walked down to the Col and climbed up Vanna Big, another of the beacons. I stood on the so-called diving board, a rock jutting out over a 500-foot drop, and then I walked back to Brecon. It was a round trip of 15 or 16 miles, and I only encountered one person over the course of the 6 hours I was walking after leaving Brecon. This was the woman who took the picture of me on the diving board, which you can see in the thumbnail to this video. Tractors passed me, yes, and a few cars, but I did not meet anybody on foot at all in the lanes and the tracks which I used. I was actually aware of some of this business of the Ramblers claiming that racism is stopping black people walking in the countryside and climbing mountains, and I was keeping an eye out for any way in which this could have affected or discouraged a black person from making a similar expedition to that which I made. The day out cost nothing at all because I walked to the mountains and I took some sandwiches with me which I made at home. It was all free, which meant that socio-economic circumstances would not have been a factor in preventing anybody doing the same thing. Even an unemployed person could have gone for that 15-mile hike. It didn't cost me a penny. Even if the farmers whose fields I passed had been the most vicious and unpleasant racists, that wouldn't have made any difference either because I didn't meet any of them. Passers-by would have been unable to display any negative body language or subject me to microaggressions because I didn't meet a single person on the way to the top of the mountain. Not one. The only other walker was a woman I saw when I reached the top of Vanna Big. She didn't have any chance to be racist, even if I had been black and she wanted to, because she was walking past me at some distance, and it was only when I went over and asked her to come and take a picture of me that we spoke. Had I not done so, then we would not have come within 20 or 30 yards of each other. I've talked at length about my experience in a green space yesterday to show how utterly irrelevant systemic racism or inequality, skin colour, race, or anything else is to the experience of walking. There are no barriers to walking anywhere at all. It's the same in London. For the cost of a tube ticket, anybody can get to Debden station, that's the nearest one to where I live, and from there it's only a 10-minute walk into open fields. I often walk from Debden to Epping or Ongar, Abridge, round there, and seldom pass people on foot. The question of racism or prejudice simply would not arise if a black person wanted to go and walk in the countryside there. This whole thing is simply a manufactured piece of nonsense which plays on the fashionable modern idea of anti-racism. Ramblers have made some consultant come and help them to draw up an anti-racism plan. For this is all big business these days, and a whole tribe of people make a good living out of it. In the description to this video, I give links to the Ramblers website and also the company who helped them devise some policies about this. The idea that there are barriers preventing black people or anybody else from visiting the countryside, climbing a mountain, going to a forest, or walking anywhere they please is absolute nonsense. Solving this supposed problem is part of a very lucrative racket being exploited by people who know that making white people, especially middle class ones, of course, feel guilty about something to do with ethnicity is a nice little earner. Nothing is stopping anybody walking in the countryside.